friends, they used to laugh at me. Used to show them on my record something casually. Used to say it was a passion, I'm a path to be. Then they told me that I couldn't, so I had to be. Tell me what they really think about it now. Used to hate it, but I guarantee they're proud. Had to do it just to show them that I could, yeah. Now I finally think I took it where I should, yeah. Had a jokes on you and now you're on and laughing. I did a whole lot of winning. Look, it came from a passion. I see a whole lot of knowings I could see out in public, and that may think a lot of things. Man, at least think something, now you the judge. Hey, now tell me where you ended up. Yeah. Look, I bet it was a simple job. Yeah. Look, I went and took a different route. Yeah. Look, that's why my life is different now. Back in my feelings, look, when I wasn't so gifted and I was learning to do this, and all I heard were the critics, and now I'm playing for that shit. Look, I was way out the basis, but I just needed some talent so I could wait this to greatness. Oh yeah, you ain't never think this, no, no, no. Stop me while I started, homie, whoa, whoa. Now this shit settled, just go better and better. I'll always remember, yeah, yeah.
What's happening? It's your boy C-Rock here. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona area. We're here with That One. This is the first time to Arizona, actually. I've been to Arizona many times, but we brought That One here. We miss Kins. She's not with us today, but we will have her back soon. I think Nashville would be the next stop, possibly. If not there, Dallas, New York. One of the stops will bring Kins back. We miss you, girl. Today I have my guy, Akshay Nanavati. Oh, man. Help me out, man.
It's a tough one.
Akshay
Nanavati.
Listen, they do this to my last name all the time, too. That's why they call me C-Rock, man.
I get it,
so,
brother.
Akshay, thank you so much for being here, man.
Thank you for having me.
We had the opportunity to meet through my famous 15 minis that I do.
I love those, yeah.
Done thousands of them and, reached out. Your story just from your Instagram amazed me, and I just said, man, let me reach out to this guy and have a talk with him. And what were your thoughts when I reached out to you out of the blue?
Full transparency, first thought was I thought it might be a scam message. But then I clicked on you and saw, I was like, okay, this guy seems like a genuine dude, so I'm going to respond. And when then I responded, and then there was another personal response, I was like, okay, this is for real. Yeah. You know how it is. You get a lot of junk on Instagram. But it was really cool. You actually inspired me tremendously with that system and that setup of what you do to start implementing something like that. Just because we have a great network here and you know the value of that. And it's just such a great way to build relationships and connections. So
a lot of times people, and it almost happened to me too, is they'll stop the movement forward on that. Like they'll think, hey, I want to DM some people and reach out, but they won't do it because they get spam messages themselves. And they just assume that everybody's going to assume that. And so they let that stop them. And, this is a topic we'll get into today because your book's called Fearvana. By the way, I just want to talk about this real quick from the beginning, and we'll talk more as we go. Here's the book. Akshay's Fearvana.
Thank you.
You guys got to check this out. It's on, I'm assuming, Amazon and all these places, right? But fear stops a lot of people. Fear of rejection, fear of what people would think about them. And, I'm 48 years old now. I wish I would have known this earlier. But, man, like I just want to push through everything. Like, now I haven't done what you've done, which we're going to get into in a second. But the things I want to connect with people and help them go further, faster. And, that little thing in my mind about spam messages or something, I'm not going to let that little thing stop me. So I do it all the time. And then people get on those calls and they'll say, oh man, I was like, I felt like I had to answer you. I get spam all the time. I felt like I had to answer you. So that's why I asked that question. And then when people meet and talk to me, they realize like I am legit trying to serve people.
Exactly. You're a genuine human being trying to do good in the world. And that's beautiful. And now we're sitting here in person. So
I flew across the country to hang out with you. What was I? That's some kind of spam job. So, but yeah, man, let's get into it. First of all, you've been to the Antarctic. You went across it. We're going to get into that story. But I want to know, where did you grow up? Where did it all start for you?
I was born in India. Originally from India, lived 8 years in India, then 5 years in Singapore, moved to the U.S. at 13. Very quickly after moving here, I got heavily into drugs, into alcohol. You can still see these scars on my arm from cutting myself, burning myself, very self-destructive, lost 2 friends to addiction. And at about 16 years old, I saw the movie Black Hawk Down. You ever seen that movie?
Yeah.
That movie planted the seed that changed my life, got me off drugs almost overnight, and decided to join the Marines, which laid the foundation for everything I am today.
So let's start with the drug addiction. So you came here at 13. When was the first time you used drugs?
I think it was around 15 or 16 years old.
Okay. And what do you think led to that from the beginning?
I didn't have bad parents or a traumatic childhood, anything like that. I'm blessed with great parents. At the time, they weren't very wealthy, but middle class, definitely not poor by any means. And so I had a good life, and I don't blame my friends. Today I take responsibility for my behavior, but as a young child, I'd moved to 4 different cities, 3 different countries in 13 years. So I was very lost, and I was very adaptable, but every strength has a shadow to it. And the shadow of adaptability is impressionability. So I got into a group of friends where that was the path. That was what we were doing for fun. My parents have asked me today, what could we have done differently had you not gone down that path? Had I gotten to a group of, let's say, outdoor sports enthusiasts like I am now, I guarantee I would have gone ham down that road.
Yeah.
But I got into that, and again, I take responsibility for my behavior now, but I was impressionable, and me being the person I am, I was the one pushing the line. So I still do that, but now in positive ways. But back then, it was like, I'm going to go do the hardest drugs in the most amount and just go hard.
So what was the one you started with? Marijuana?
First marijuana and alcohol.
Yeah.
Then went to LSD, which we did a lot of, and then cocaine.
Yeah.
And I was ready to go down. Like, I wanted to try every drug that came my way. And I'm just glad that by the time I stopped doing it, like, I have one of my friends who we started doing harder stuff together. And he ended up getting down to cocaine and then heroin, and he OD'd and died. And honestly, I would have been there myself had I not gotten out already.
Yeah. And nowadays it's so much, more dangerous with fentanyl.
Yeah.
Luckily that wasn't there when we were partying. I mean, I got into partying myself too. And I look back on it, and a couple things were brought to my attention. I had a concussion in football when I was 17 or 18, and brain injury stems or leads to drug use through some certain studies. I was told through a doctor that I was talking to. I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that at the time. But when you went into that realm, you were searching for identity. Is that what you would say?
Very
Like, who
so.
am I?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
100%.
and when I hit 40, I don't know if you experienced this, I felt like I found out who I really was. I peeled back layers, right?
Yeah.
But at that age where you were 12, 13, coming to the United States, and 15, 16, it is a time where you're trying to figure out who you are.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Did the drugs make you feel like a super person at the time?
Especially did, because I was known as the crazy one. I remember one point doing 18 hits of LSD. If you have a frame of reference, you know that's a lot.
Yeah, I never
And
touched
I was
that
the
stuff,
guy doing the most, right? Doing the craziest stuff.
Yeah.
And so that was my identity, the crazy, the crazy guy in our crew.
Did you get to a point where it started to see, it's all great at first. Sin is great at first, right? Yeah. That's why it sucks you in. But did you get to a point where it got dark before you decided to quit?
I got caught in school. Like, not only was I an idiot, I got caught doing everything as well. So I got arrested. I got caught doing drugs in school, but that never really got me off. I think the really dark phases hit when I struggled with alcohol after the war, which we can get into later. But I think before it got truly dark, I got out of that world.
Yeah.
It was still kind of fun. I mean, yes, there were some dark moments, but it was never really as dark as it was when I struggled. My battles with alcohol were much harder than with drugs.
Yeah.
When that was after coming back from the war in Iraq.
Yeah.
But I got out, thankfully, early enough that before it got a lot darker for some of my friends that went down that path. And watching Black Hawk Down, reading the books on combat military. I mean, literally almost pretty much overnight, stopped doing drugs and said, this is the path now.
Really? Did you have any withdrawal?
I think my memory is overshadowed with the withdrawals I struggle with alcohol.
Yeah.
Because the alcohol days were very dark.
Yeah.
And that was now so long ago that it's, I guess, clouded over. All I remember was I still remember watching that movie. That night, actually, a bunch of us were going to go do drugs. One friend wanted to go watch the movie. Nobody'd go with him. So I was like, all right, I'll go with you. And I remember tearing up in that movie, that scene when Gary Gordon and Randy Sugar, they volunteered to go on the ground, set up a defensive perimeter to protect the second Black Hawk that crashed. They died, received the Medal of Honor posthumously, and the kind of courage that it took to do. I mean, I get goosebumps today talking about it, man.
Yeah, I was just getting chills.
It triggered me that it just made me question this worthless, selfish, meaningless life I was living.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to do something more.
Yeah, so some people don't believe in past lives or that we've had many lives, but I feel like I've had many lives in this body. And when I look back on my days of partying and things, man, I don't even recognize myself.
Yeah.
I look back, like you said, what selfish attitude that was, and I don't even recognize that person.
Yeah.
Completely
relate.
Yeah, you can. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So all right, so then you go through that phase, and then you decide to enlist, And did you have a recruiter, or did you?
Yeah, it took me a year and a half to get into the military because I have flat feet, I have scoliosis, I have a blood disorder that 2 doctors told me would kill me in boot camp. So all of these were disqualifying conditions. And I couldn't. So initially I wanted to go kind of like Black Hawk Down. I wanted to go Army Rangers, and Delta Force, which is like the best of the best in the U.S. military, right? But I was told, which now I've been told is a lie, but by the recruiter, that you can't go Special Forces unless you're a U.S. citizen. I was not a U.S. citizen at the time. I was a green card holder. So because I couldn't go Special Forces, I thought I'll go the toughest branch that is not Special Forces, hence the Marines. And it took me a year and a half to get in because of all those disqualifying conditions. But this was post 9/11. So here's a young kid who wants to go frontline Marine Corps infantry. They found a way.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful they did, of course. But after that year and a half, kind of literally fighting my way to get in, seeing multiple doctors, going multiple times to take the test, whatever I had to do, eventually I got the check, got the seal of approval.
And what about boot camp? What was that like for you? Had you ever experienced anything like that? Because I played football, and I went to college and played football, and summer camp is a miserable 2 days. So that's I've been through that. But have you gone through anything like that?
Not really. I mean, I played sports younger, but nothing like that.
Yeah.
Before getting the drugs, I was very athletic, but nothing like that. I mean, my drill instructor was also a former infantry Marine, so he put the infantry Marines through an extra hard time, which I'm grateful he did. Our boot camp was the boot camp was my first exposure to the value of suffering. What that teaches you about who you are, and not just for yourself to tap into something greater within yourself, but to do it for someone else. You know, in boot camp, when one person messed up, everybody got punished for it.
Yep.
Which you hate at times, but you live for the good of the group, and that's profoundly beautiful.
Did you ever ask yourself, like, what the heck am I doing?
The first week, when you're first kind of thrown into this, right? Drill instructors yelling in your face 24/7. You're just kind of like, fuck, what am I doing? Yeah. But once I adapted to that reality, I thrived. I ended up graduating infantry school as the honor graduate of my platoon. So I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
I embraced it. I wasn't physically the strongest at the time because I had kind of just come out of a lot of drugs. So I'd started training, but I wasn't physically the strongest, but mentally I embraced it and loved it. Yeah.
And then did you like create some really good friendships?
Yeah. To this day, I'm in touch with my rack mate from boot camp.
Yeah.
We got along like great human being. And then some of my closer buddies were guys I deployed with to Iraq as well a few years later.
And then like when it was getting tough in boot camp, were you guys talking each other up and
as much as possible, they don't let you. It's I don't know if you've seen Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
over and over.
You don't get to hang out with as much and chat, but whenever we did have times like that, you definitely support each other. I mean, even during the Crucible, which is kind of like our version of Navy SEALs Hell Week, I twisted my ankle on the first hike in the Crucible. And thankfully, my buddies really helped me out. I mean, I still had to hike and everything, but whenever we had certain evolutions, they were like, all right, you do that sort of other post, we'll do the climbing or whatever, you know? So we helped each other out to navigate the hard times.
And then what's the feeling like when you graduated? Like that day and then right after?
Yeah,
like,
you get the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor, which is
describe that feeling.
It built everything I am today. It was one of the proudest moments of my life at the time. And to this day, being a Marine is something I am so proud of. It is the tribe that I feel most honored, humbled, and grateful to have been served in. You know, my parents initially were not a big fan of me joining because I wasn't even a U.S. citizen. I would be almost certain I would go to a war that wasn't our war. And they were stuck in this rock and a hard place, right? Yeah. Like here they see this kid drinking himself, doing a lot of drugs, eventually possibly going down that road and dying, and now joining a military that's not ours. So it was a hard moment for them. But when they came to my graduation, boot camp graduation, and they saw me, and they saw in this country, you know, regardless of which side of the political spectrum you are, they value those who serve. And the amount of people that would say thank you for your service when they see me in uniform, it was really humbling for my parents to see that too. And it brought a new respect to armed services, even for us in India, which they don't. In India, we don't treat our armed forces like the way that we do here.
Yeah, really.
And it really, and it changed how they do even in India now. You know, my mom went back to India and she saw a soldier and thanked him for his service. That soldier had never been thanked before and actually started tearing up because nobody had ever said that.
Why is that in India that they like?
There's a general perception that unless you're a high-ranking officer, you're just kind of poor and have no choice. So it almost feels like it's maybe I'm not saying this the best way, but like a poor person's job as opposed to someone
Right.
choosing it to serve
Like a janitor,
their country.
like that
yeah,
way
exactly.
somebody would look at it as a janitor
exactly.
instead of respecting that they're doing that. Yeah.
And so it really changed a lot. So my parents are damn proud of me. And I mean, again, at one point I wanted to go career military. And so coming in out of boot camp, finally earning that title of Marine was, it laid the foundation for everything I am today.
Yeah, Marines, anytime you look at their pictures, the main picture they take, or anytime they're always just looking so tough, man.
Hard,
like
yeah,
serious
exactly.
Yeah.
I have that boot camp picture.
Yeah.
You got the
But is that how you guys felt besides the way the picture looks?
Yeah.
Is that how you feel
Oh,
inside?
because it taps into a part of you that very few have accessed.
Yeah.
And back then, I mean, I don't know, I've heard boot camp has gotten a little softer, and I'm sure the Vietnam guys probably say that about us.
Yeah.
But like our drill instructor was hard. He
Yeah.
put us through the ringer. He really had us suffer, but we were grateful for it. I didn't want to go to boot camp because I wanted easy, and so it builds in you something you haven't tapped into before.
Right.
And suffering, the crucible of suffering, is the only way to open those doors into the soul that have very rarely been opened.
Yeah.
And that was my first exposure to that. And since then, I've done a lot to go deeper.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a
Yeah.
second. But then you get sent to Iraq. You said, right?
Yeah.
What part? What time? Where were we in Iraq at the time?
I was in the Anbar province in a place called
Where were
Haditha.
we though?
Oh, sorry. It was in
As a country.
2007 that I went. So towards the end of the war, towards the end of the deployment.
Okay.
I went to boot camp in 2004, and I kept volunteering every chance I could get, but it wasn't until early 2007 that I got activated.
And was ISIS still active at that time?
There were, by the time I went, the biggest threat were the IEDs. By then, they weren't like firefights happening left, right, and center. They were pop shots were taken all the time at us, but we were so vastly superior in our training and our firepower that they kind of knew that if you engage in a firefight, we're going to destroy you.
Yeah.
So their biggest threat to us was IEDs,
Yeah.
which are improvised explosive devices.
Yeah, that was
setting up
guerrilla
bombs.
tactics, right? Yeah. And so was it fun in Iraq?
It was.
Did you have fun at all?
It was intense, but it was an incredibly beautiful life experience.
Yeah.
The thing with war, it exposes the extremes of the human condition. So you see human beings at their worst. People doing horrific things to each other. First week we were there, the insurgents cut the head off a local Iraqi and threw it in the streets. So you see the horrors of humanity, but you also see the best of humanity. You see people putting their lives on a line for another human being, willing to sacrifice themselves, their well-being for another. And when you reveal humanity at its extremes, it shows you everything about who we are.
Yeah.
And that's a dark reality, but it's also a magnificently beautiful reality.
Did it traumatize you at all?
I came back and I was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. I struggled with survivor's guilt. When I was in Iraq, my vehicle drove over an active bomb that by some miracle, it didn't explode.
Jeez.
One of my very close friends, when he had gone deployed, we were the closest in the unit, my brother and I, and his vehicle drove over an active bomb. It exploded. He died. So I struggled a lot with survivor's guilt. I didn't get shot? I didn't lose any limbs. Why do I get that?
Right.
For a long time, I couldn't even talk about being a veteran because I just felt like I wasn't worthy of even the title. Like, I didn't do shit. I did my job, but I was no hero.
Yeah.
I still struggle with being like, not that it happens, but every once in a while, if somebody says like you're a hero, I can't take that.
Yeah.
So
what about sleeping and dreams and things like that?
There was for a little bit. I drowned it out a lot with alcohol, but now.
Oh, so you still drank after you got back?
Yeah, yeah. Like I got back and then I went to get my master's in journalism because the war was dying out and I felt unfulfilled that I hadn't suffered enough to earn my life. Because again, I had lost friends to war.
Right.
I've seen people one of my closest friends who recently also died in combat, he ran into a burning Humvee to save a fellow Marine. I didn't do anything that I felt like was worthy, so I wanted to go back. Because again, there's also this purity to war because it revealed humanity without the masks. In this world, no matter how authentic you are, we're wearing masks,
Right.
Suffering sheds those masks. And so there was a desire to go back. So I went to grad school to get a master's in journalism so I could go back to war as a combat journalist. Because after Iraq, I kept volunteering to go back. And the Marines said, the wars were dying down. There were no place for me. So I said, all right, I'm going to go out of the Marines. I got out and I was like, I'm going to go back to war as a combat journalist. That was the plan initially.
What happened?
I had met my now ex-wife in grad school. So that plan changed again because combat journalist is not exactly conducive to a family lifestyle.
Right.
It's very intense to say the least. There's combat journalists who've seen more war than many military guys. So that's what that plan changed once I met my now ex-wife.
Gotcha. Now, when you're in battle or, you're over in Iraq deployed, and you're there for the country, you're there for your fellow Marine, but was there talk amongst the Marines about what we're fighting for, or is this really our war? Is, the politics of it at all get into it while you were there? And then how about after?
Yeah, great question. There were a few of us who had those dialogues, and I actually wrote my history. I was an undergrad in history, so I wrote the thesis on the war. There were a lot of lies that went into it. We should not have been there, but truly on the ground, we were trying to do good. I had Iraqis who said, I feel sorry Americans have to pay in blood for Iraqi freedom. So we really wanted to help these people. Separate from all the politics of the war, on the ground, we did. And we tried. We opened up a marble factory, a train station for the first time in 4 years. We trained the Iraqi police, trained the Iraqi army. And, history will tell us in the future what it was ultimately all about and whether they were better off. It's hard to say. But, I met Iraqis. I met a guy who had spent 8 years as a prisoner of war in Iran because of the Iran-Iraq war that Saddam started. And you could see, I cannot fathom the level of torture and hell that man must have endured. And you could see he was sort of not right in the head anymore.
Well, the U.S. backed Iran, then it went back to Iraq, and then back to, back and forth.
We did a lot that put a lot of people in harm's way.
Yeah.
And that it's very dark to think about the amount of suffering that was endured. But ultimately, like most people in most corners of the globe are just normal human people, human beings trying to live their life, take care of their family. That's it. No different from you and me, brother. Like they just want to live their lives. There's a handful who want to see the world burn, but that's a very small handful. The problem is that's what's focused on.
Yeah.
But most Iraqis were just good people, man.
And we have politicians that'll sit in the air conditioning and put people in harm's way for different interests.
Yeah.
And it just, you want to have pride in your country and be a patriot and all that. But and I think we do, us looking at the citizens of the United States and the institution of the United States. But then you have this dark force, man. And it's really hard. I think about this all the time. I study it. I listen to a lot of podcasts with historians, and it's just, you can lose hope in what we stand for in a way.
Yeah.
Not the founding fathers, but what we stand for now. And it's, and the other thing is you don't know what's true and what's not.
It's a hard reality to face. Yeah. I get it, man. No country's perfect. I love this country. I love being a part of it. It's my home now. I'll always be my home. And I'm grateful to have served in the Marines. But again, no country's perfect. India, my other home, has also got its flaws, right? So does everyone. And you look for the good in people, and then you try to bring that good up, right? In each in our own way through the work we do, that you're doing, that I'm doing, that other people are doing. Through these small communities, at least build and bring. If you can bring a little bit of light into the darkness, you're starting to change the world.
Yeah, and let's talk about identity again, because when you come out of the military, I've interviewed over 1,000 people, and darkest times, whether it's a CEO, professional athlete, a business person that had an exit from being a founder from a startup, it doesn't matter. They all, when they go through this thing where whatever they were identifying as stops, crashes, slows down. They exit a company. There's no more meetings. There's no more emails. Nobody's calling them for advice on anything. They get lost. Yeah. Right? Did you go through that coming out of the military?
Very much so. Yeah. I think I was diagnosed with PTSD, but I don't think it was just that. Looking back now, it was very much part of this loss of identity. Who am I? What do I do with my life now? That's why I said I was kind of wandering a little bit. I wanted to go 1-point career Marines. When that plan changed, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And that was what led inevitably after a few years of, I came back from grad school, had a corporate job for a year and a half. Then I went and did a 1-month crossing of Greenland, dragging a 190-pound sled for 350 miles. Beautiful life experience. But in hindsight, looking back, I was just doing it to escape being still with myself, to escape my demons. I wanted to return to an intense environment where that intensity consumes you, similar to war. Right. And after that, I came back, and now without an external job, without some intensity, the demons started rising. Like one day of drinking became 2. Yeah. And eventually one morning after 5 days of binge drinking, I woke up and I was seconds away from slitting my wrists. That was but in many ways I needed that moment. It was the rock bottom moment that began my climb out of the abyss, that led to understanding the nature of the identity I was holding on to, the constructs of that identity, and went deep into not only neuroscience, psychology, but my own spiritual path to reconstruct what I am and who I want to be.
Yeah. Yeah, so the answer for me and what I've found through all of this is really find out who you are, your non-negotiables, your standards, your core values, your strengths, your weaknesses and insecurities, and it takes a lot of courage to face those things, right?
Those places,
and then lean into it unapologetically.
Absolutely.
Lean into who you are, and then what happens then you can get in and out of vehicles, which is the thing that you do, which people identify with a lot of times to make their identity. You get in and out of those vehicles, but you don't lose yourself.
Yeah.
And the vehicle stops, slows down. You just don't like it anymore. You have permission to change your mind. You get out, you get into something else.
Absolutely.
But you know who you are.
Absolutely.
And I think I don't see a lot of people talking about this, but we need to be more proactive with the younger generation and letting them know, find out who you are at the time. You can change and evolve, but who you are at the time and get into vehicles. Because again, for me, it was the darkest time. Everybody I talked to, is the darkest time in their life is when they lost their identity, because they made their identity about what they do versus who they really were.
I love that, brother.
Yeah.
It led me to, after going down that path, I spent 7 days in a darkness retreat, pitch darkness, isolation, so dark you cannot see your hand in front of you. Yeah. So you're forced to go within. And through those experiences, talking about creating the constructs of your identity, there's that very deep existential question, who am I?
Yeah.
Philosophers have been asking since the beginning of time. And the answer that I've led to, that I now stand by, is I am the creator of my own illusion. Most of how we engage with reality is a construct. In the simplest ways, we're taught at a young age how to think, how to perceive the world. Even when I see that thing as a white wall, how do I know that's a white wall? Because I've been taught that thing is a wall, that color is white. So the world is this illusion that's been constructed for us. So when I started seeing, when I break every layer down to something fundamentally deeper by sitting so still with the self, I realized I am the creator of my own illusion. So when you said, I loved the way you put it, is I actually built out, and I highly recommend people do this, I've got a philosophy statement. I have the words that I want on my tombstone. So looking back, the day I die, I'm going to work backwards from that future. Is everything oriented towards that? Like the words I want on my tombstone is, he wandered the world with human heart to doctor the sick with human soul.
Wow.
It's words based on Carl Jung, by the way, but that guides me now, and that becomes my North Star. I have a philosophy statement, an ethos statement. So these got crystallized as my guiding lights, that these are the constructs I choose to abide by, and everything else of what I do is a vehicle, just as you said.
Yeah.
But you first get clear that this reality is an illusion. I am the creator of that illusion. I'm going to create the constructs that serve me.
Yeah. Well, I had a buddy pass away last week of cancer.
Bro.
Thank you. And I started to think more and more about this, because the week went by and I thought about him again, but then, you go about your everyday life, and, besides the family, the people that are closest to that person that, got to hang out with him every day, talk to him every day, it's just a fleeting memory in a way. And then I started to think about, well, you know what? We're really not that important. Individuals are really not that important. What's important is what we do that lasts after us, legacy, right? And the legacy is not about you. It's about how it impacts the world.
Absolutely.
Right? And how it makes other people's lives maybe easier, or they can get through adversity or suffering better.
Yeah.
And so I started to think about that for myself, and I started thinking, you're not that important. Dude, you're not, and not in a bad way where I just feel like worthless, right?
I get it, yeah.
But the fact that I'm not that important except for the fact of what I do. And, that changed, just recently changed, put me in a different gear, actually. No matter what I'm accomplishing, I still think there's always another gear. Yeah. And so now it's how can I make people go further, faster in what they're doing in their mission, right? And attach myself to that. And but yeah, I started to realize that, like, even the Queen of England, when she passed, after that happened, like a week or two later, people moved on. That was the Queen. Yeah, history tells it. But what did she do?
Yeah.
All right, so then you went to Greenland, first of all, to escape. And so do you think that was the right reason to go there?
Today I still do these things, these voyages on the edge, but very different level of consciousness.
Right.
So now I'm aware that I was doing it as an escape. It had to be, I guess it had to be done because that's what was done. The real hard thing that should have been done, the better hard thing, would have been going deeper within. But eventually I did when I hit that rock bottom moment. So that's why I always like to say, like, the whole ethos now, in fact, the next book I'm working on is about helping people choose the right hard thing. It's not about just doing the hard thing. There's a lot of people who can do hard things and their life is still a wreck.
And why they do it.
Why they do it. Yeah. What's driving you? What's the core of it, right? So the right hard thing at the time would have been going deeper within. And I think, in my experience, I think the greatest fear in humanity is the fear of stillness. And if you look at human behavior, you can see, I don't think it's a fear. Like, if I ask people, what are your fears? Almost nobody's going to say that, but their behaviors indicate that. We will do everything possible to distract ourselves from ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's what, through even what eventually led me into the darkness, was the darkness retreat that I told you about, was realizing that I'd gotten really good at doing hard things. I've run so many ultra marathons. I had crossed ice caps, climbed mountains, joined the Marines. But the thing I was still running away from was pure stillness. So even when I went into the darkness retreat, the first 2 days I was working out. And I realized I was working out to escape being still, because working out's my comfort zone. It's hard, but I can do it. I'm good at it. So I made a rule for the next 5 days of that 7 days, no working out. You have to sit still with yourself. And that was really, really hard.
Wow. So I just realized something. So when I wake up, sometimes I'll wake up really early, not intentionally, but I just wake up. And if I'm not in prayer, when I'm laying there, if I'm not in prayer, I have to get up. I can't lay. I still have work to do, obviously, right? But I have to be in prayer to control my thoughts and mind. Otherwise, it can go off into wherever, and then you can start to worry. You can have anxiety, whatever. So I get up. Yeah. Now that might not be a bad thing because I get the day started and get going. But still, I can't. I'm not one to just lay around and fall back asleep and come back. I just can't do it because it doesn't feel good.
No, I got you.
So when you're in the darkness retreat. When let's say I go for a jog, usually like you start being out of breath really quickly. Yeah. But then if you just keep going, I tell myself this all the time, you just keep going, you catch that second wind. Yeah. The darkness retreat, was it like that at first? You're kind of like wigging out a little bit at first maybe, and then did eventually you caught your stride?
Yeah. The first day and a half, most of us are in some degree of sleep debt, especially we're all hard workers, right? So first day and a half, you're sleeping a ton. And then eventually when you're burnt out on how much you can sleep, now you're like, all right, now I got to face this. Yeah. And the first day is rough because you're just kind of acclimatizing to a level of boredom that you've never really experienced. Yeah. And then you start going deeper into meditations. You start seeing lights. In fact, the brightest white light I've ever seen in my life was in a dark room. It was so bright, I was shielding my eyes because it was blinding me. They say your brain starts to release DMT, which is that hallucinogenic experience. So, I mean, after day 2, for the next 5 days, I was consistently seeing lights. And the light starts taking
even with your
shapes.
eyes closed?
Yeah. That actually made it really hard to sleep sometimes because imagine if I'm basically when the eyes are closed or open, the look is the same. So imagine having transparent eyelids. It kind of messes with you. It made it really hard to sleep sometimes. But it was, to me, and you can call it what you want, the universe, but it was sometimes God speaking to me through those lights because the lights would take shapes. And it's like the consciousness or God or the universe speaking messages to you. I actually journaled in the dark too. I would have a ruler and writing into the dark just to let the message come through me.
Wow. So did you have a moment at all where you were just like, let me out of here, I can't do this?
No, there was no point where I was going to sort of get out. I mean, the door's open, so you can get out whenever you want.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking because I think to myself, like, I know I went to an MRI. Is it MRI when you're in a really tight spot? Yeah. And I was sitting there and I had to talk myself in. And I don't know, maybe you're in there for an hour. I don't even remember. But I was thinking to myself a couple times, dude, I'm going to have to get out of this. I'm going to have to get out of this. I don't know if it was claustrophobic or what. Yeah. But darkness can create claustrophobia as well, or feed that as well. But I just thought when you're talking about this, like, man, I might have to just get out of here. But
I had moments where I was like, oh man, this sucks. How much time do I have left in here? But there was.
And by the way, how did you know how much time you had left?
You kind of didn't. I mean, the only measure of time was I was having 2 juices a day, so I chose to do a juice fast. Yeah. Both times I went in. So actually, that was the first time I went in. I did 7 days. I went back in 2 years ago and did 10 days in the darkness. And both times I did just a juice fast to add hunger into the experience. But they'd bring juices twice a day. And you don't know exactly what time. You kind of have a sense of what time, but that was your only measure of time. 2 juices.
Would you be looking for the next juice? Next juice. I just got to get to the next juice.
It kind of breaks it up. So that's why when I did the 10-day darkness retreat last time, and the last 2 days I had no juices. So there was no measure of time. Plus, obviously, the hunger got a little worse, but that messed with your head even more.
Were you talking to yourself?
The first time I made a rule, no talking out loud, because I wanted the chaos of the mind. Because first time I went in, it was more healing the past. Second time I went in, I was training for my solo expedition Antarctica. So I was in a great place mentally, physically, spiritually. So the second time I did talk to myself out loud, because I wanted, when you talk out loud, there's a feedback loop. I can hear my own words, and that silences the chaos of the mind. When you don't talk out loud, the mind can get chaotic. So the first time I wanted to be with that chaos to see where it would direct me. The second time I wanted to create a construct of an identity that could cross Antarctica. I studied method acting, like how actors get into roles. I went obsessively studying it. And so I went into the darkness a second time to become a character, the kind of character I need to be to ski across Antarctica.
What about the construct of time in the darkness retreat? Did time start to speed up?
Time is the biggest enemy to navigate in doing hard things, especially long endurance or long levels of stillness. Because you know how it is, man. 5 minutes can feel like a lifetime, or 5 minutes can go by in a second. And you see how malleable this construct of time is And our ability to navigate it is so fundamental to pursuing any kind of hard thing. And I'm by far perfect at it, but these life experiences have got me better. Just 3 days ago, I did 24 hours on a stair climber, and talk about navigating time, man. Like,
what else have you done? Jeez. So, all right. So did it speed up though as you went on in the retreats, or slow down?
Both. So even by day 7, like actually in the last time I went in day 10, I woke up and I actually, in my mind, I thought, because I now no longer had juices, right, to dictate my time.
Yeah.
So I remember waking up and I thought, for some reason, I thought that the door will be getting knocked on. My documentary crew, we were filming a documentary about my Antarctic expedition, was going to film me coming out of the darkness. So I thought I'd heard the knock like any minute now. And then I'm sitting there, and the knock never came. And I'm like, what's going on here? What time is it? And I had no idea, right? And so finally I had to just say, look, stop thinking about it. Stop waiting for that knock. It'll come when it comes. Just embrace it. And I think it must have been at least 12 hours later. I don't know exactly, obviously, but I was way off on my time. So there are moments where time would slow down again and speed up again.
Yeah.
And you just have to constantly rein that mind in. Because every time you think about time, it can feel like an eternity. And then I would have to tell myself, just surrender. There's value here. Stop waiting to get out. Stop waiting for this to be done. You're here for a reason. There's a gift in this. Be with it.
And what were some of the cognitions that you had? Realizations, God speaking to you? What were some of the things that came from that?
The first time it revealed a lot about my own relationship to my guilt, to that survivor's guilt. Not only from being in war, I've worked with survivors of sex trafficking, former child soldiers, post-conflict zones. So I've seen a lot of hell on earth, and I struggled with that. Like, why do I get this good life when so many others suffer?
Right.
And in the darkness, the first time especially, it just brought more clarity to that answer, that it's almost it's a waste of a question. I don't know why my vehicle survived that IED.
Right.
There is no answer. But now the question is, what am I going to do with this life that is going to be meaningful to something greater?
Yeah.
And asking that question, why me? Why do I get to live? Is a waste of it's dishonoring not only life, but it's dishonoring the people that I've lost.
Yeah.
There's a great quote from Harold Kushner, who wrote this book, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. He says, the dead depend on us for their redemption and their immortality. And it was like, it's on me to honor my friends that I've lost.
Yeah.
Like anything I do, anybody who's impacted by my work, it's not just my work. It's every life that has interacted with mine, even lives that I've never met. Like Viktor Frankl's book, Man's Search for Meaning. I never met the man.
Yep.
That book changed the trajectory of my life. You know the power of that book.
Yeah.
So Viktor Frankl is connected to me, even though I never met that human being. And so it just enlightened me to the interconnectedness of the human condition, how we're part of something so much bigger. And the first darkness experience really brought that to my forefront of my consciousness. The most powerful moment was coming out of the darkness. When I saw the light.
Next. What was that like?
When I saw the light for the first time, I was moved to tears. I had never in my entire life seen the world look so bright, so luminescent. And I started tearing up, and I had this visceral knowing that you can never really see the power of the light until you've first been in the dark. And I started to feel deep gratitude for every bit of suffering I'd ever experienced, recognizing in a very visceral, concrete, not just a conscious, conceptual way, but in a visceral way, that it's only through suffering can you really understand joy.
Yeah.
You can't have light without darkness.
Right.
You can't have a summit without a valley.
Dichotomies. Yeah.
And so the deeper you play on the depths of darkness, the greater you will know the heights of awe, the luminosity of the light. And so in a very visceral way, I came to understand that. And so it gave me a new relationship to my own pain, to the pain of others that I help alleviate through my work, and recognizing that, I mean, that's what led to the book Fearvana. The whole ethos of Fearvana is that fear is not the antithesis of nirvana. It's an access point to nirvana. Yeah. That fear is an access point to bliss, to enlightenment. Mm-hmm. And we need both sides of every duality for them to coexist to create something greater than each individual part. And the darkness really opened that up in a visceral way.
Yeah, and then what was the first week like after the darkness retreat? Like, not just coming out, but that next week or so.
I started reading my own darkness journals. I remember on the flight back, the first time I did it was in Germany, the second time in Mexico, and I started reading my darkness journals, and it was almost like I don't remember writing them. It was like the message was channeled in a way. Call it what you want, as crazy as it may sound. And both times, it was really moving to read that and to see what was revealed to me, and then to bring that now to my work.
I can relate to the guilt kind of thing. When things are going really good in my life, a lot of times I have this feeling like something bad's going to happen. It can't keep going. You know, why am I experiencing this? You know, and I don't know where that comes from or why, you know, but then I start telling myself, no, everything works out for me. Everything always works out for me. And that helps me get through it and keep going with it. And then when bad things come, I don't look at them as bad, because I just realize, okay, wait a minute, there's a lesson here I need to learn. I'm in a point where God's trying to tell me something, and I just open up and I listen, and that helps, and it reframes the whole something bad's happening.
Yeah, that's
right?
beautiful. Brother.
Yeah.
And I think that guilt, you know, what hit me, allowed me to change my relationship to the guilt, is recognizing guilt is an expression of love. I think the fact that we feel that is a testament to love.
Yeah.
I felt guilt because I loved my brother in arms. So actually what I did to help me write the book and reframe my reality and stop drinking, I put a picture of my friend up on my wall next to my bed, and it said, "This should have been you. Earn this life."
Yeah.
My guilt
Good
became my
reminder.
ally. Earn it.
And you don't drink anymore.
I don't.
Yeah.
Completely
How
sober.
long?
It's been, so after I broke up without going deep into the weeds on this, my ex-wife got caught up in a cult. Our marriage ended. It was crazy how that happened. I broke my sobriety. I did break it pretty hard, and everything I do.
After how long were you sober at that time?
I was sober for a few years at the time. Yeah, at least 2-3 years, if not longer at the time. And then that happened, broke my sobriety, went pretty hard. When I break, I mean, I was drinking a bottle of vodka a day. Like when I was drinking heavily, it was dark.
Yeah.
And then that actually was what first led me into the darkness, because I had sobered up, and then something was missing still. And I recognized that stillness was still a fear I hadn't fully confronted. Went into the 7-day darkness retreat, and then been sober now a few years since then.
Yeah, when you spiral again, you make up all these stories of why you should be doing this, and it's okay, right? You go through all this stuff, and then
it wasn't her fault; it was my fault.
No, of course, you got to take responsibility, right? But did you have this feeling of like a shame feeling or disappointment in yourself
like
as you're
such
going
a
through
piece
it?
of shit.
Yeah.
You know, you hate yourself. You're such a piece of shit. I would disappear for days on end. My parents in India wouldn't hear from me. They were worried, and it's not like I wanted to put them through that, but I was so, you know, and there's no excuse for it, but you really feel like a piece of shit. There's no other way.
Now look, you need to take care of yourself before you take care of others, right? We all know that.
Exactly.
However, the CEO that just got at the Coldplay concert recently.
I heard about that. Yeah.
I just saw a post on Instagram this morning, and it talked about the real cost of an affair, right? And it talked about not just the money that he's going to have to pay in divorce and child support and alimony and all this stuff, but the company he's given up, what he lost there. But then it also went into each of the kids, daughters and sons, and how that divorce or affairs affect the kids going forward in their lives. And it just started making me think, like, man, you take care of yourself first, right? Yeah. But then everything, you got to make it about how can I uplift humanity?
Yeah.
And all those that I can touch and impact, So, all right. So then you go into the Antarctica thing. How did that idea come up in the first place?
It took me 4 years to preparing for this. So what I was attempting to do was to do the world's first coast-to-coast ski crossing of Antarctica, dragging two sleds that initially weighed 420 pounds for 1,750 miles over a period of 115 days completely alone. This was so hard it had never even been attempted before, let alone completed. Many adventurers consider it to be impossible. People told me anyone who attempts this will probably fail. And so it was the last great adventure in Antarctic expeditions that hadn't been completed yet. So that was, or even attempted, that was the draw. I was like, can we push the boundaries of the human potential in a way that had never been pushed before?
And you had to do it by yourself?
I chose to do it solo.
Why?
Solo and unsupported.
Why?
Unsupported meaning dragging all your own sled.
Why,
because
though?
solo is psychologically a lot harder.
Yeah, of course.
I wanted the experience of that. I mean, there are some ways solo makes it easier because you can just do what you want. You don't have to depend on anybody else, either slowing you down or speeding you up. Like you're at your own pace. But psychologically, there's no one to motivate you when you're in the pit. Yes, I did call my wife on sat phone at the end of the day, but in the day while I'm skiing, there's no one to guide you. You're all up here. Yeah. That solitude, the suffering, pulling 420 pound sled, it was uphill from day one. And we got hit with some of the worst snow conditions in Antarctic history, meaning soft snow. So I remember one day, every 3 steps, the 2 sleds would get stuck in the soft snow. I'd do all I can to fight them out. 3 steps later, they'd get stuck again. This would go on for 9 hours a day. It was fucking hell. There's no other way to put it. Absolute
How many times
hell.
did you feel like quitting?
I never felt like quitting, but I had many moments where I'm like, this really fucking sucks. There's just no, like, I knew that. And what ended up happening was I ended up getting out there. I was out there for 60 days completely alone, dragged those sleds 500 miles through some of the toughest terrain, worst snow conditions, and literally pushed the body to the brink of death. I ended up getting what's called diverticulitis, which is infection in the colon, that if left untreated, the colon bursts, it goes in the bloodstream, gets septic, and kills you. And that's actually what happened to another adventurer in Antarctica 8 years ago. He was doing a different expedition, a hard one, but a different expedition, and he did end up getting, it burst, and he died. And so I felt that pain on day 58, and it was pretty excruciating, the pain. And day 60...
Wait a minute, how did it get treated, though?
So when it hit on day 58, the doctors were like, all right, if it doesn't go away, we're coming to get you right now. And by then, I already knew I couldn't complete the crossing. About day 45 or day 48, somewhere between those 3 days, it was very clear that I didn't have the time left to get to the other end of Antarctica.
Right.
Because it was just so hard.
Right.
And so I knew that now I can't complete the crossing, but I thought, let me just stay out there for the spiritual experience, because the spiritual experience is profoundly beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, the nature of Antarctica, just to give you context, the first 30 days, I didn't see a mountain. It was flat, white nothingness. There is no stimuli. Every day looks the exact same. It's just plain white nothingness.
Jeez.
And the mental challenge of that is absolutely
I have no interest in even doing it. Like, even I don't even want to see a picture of it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like,
my wife, when we were training in Alaska, she dragged a 100-pound sled, and after 10 minutes of this, her honest to God reaction, not even like a joke, she goes, "You have to be mentally ill to want to do this for 100 days.
Something's wrong with you."
I was like, this is who you married.
So how many miles did you get?
I got 500 miles.
500 miles.
Over 60 days completely alone.
And is there something in you that says, I'm going to do this again?
So there's a desire to go back, but not to do a full crossing. I actually truly believe it is impossible. And not only that, we had to raise $1.1 million for doing this expedition. Wow. That's how expensive it was. Wow. So the problem is, let's say you were to go do it again, you're going to lose a lot of money if it ends up being the same way. And I think the only way, even if you have a 5% chance of pulling it off, is you have to start on the other side. Because I was going to coast crossing via the South Pole. The side I started on meant going uphill from day one. And I had no choice. I had to start on that side because getting to the other side is very, very hard. There's a lot of bad weather. And so we were trying to see if I could get to the other side, but there was no weather window. So I had to start on that side.
Did you have a tracking device?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a map on my website of what we accomplished. But if you start on the other side, you have 30 days of flat terrain before you start climbing. Because the South Pole is at actually 9,500 feet. People don't think about that. I didn't initially as well. So it's not just flat. You're actually going uphill. Yeah. And so if I had started on the other side, I think you have a very small shot of pulling it off. But the problem is the odds of getting that side are very, very low.
Well, whatever you believe is true. You're right?
Yeah.
So if you believe you're just believing it's impossible, then it is.
If somebody pulls it off starting from the side I start on, I'd be the first to shake their hand. I'd be the first to help them.
The only way they would be able to do it is if they firmly believe that could be possible.
And I did believe, I believe with all my soul, the amount we trained for it. I had built up to a point that I built my aerobic capacity to 170. Just to give context, what that means is I can sustain a heart rate of 170 beats per minute while staying in an aerobic state. Most elite endurance athletes have an aerobic threshold of 160. I did 21 Nordic curls. Nordic curls are an exercise so hard. Men's Health wrote an article about George St. Pierre, the UFC fighter, when he did 2, because most people who work out can't do a single one. So we built up strength capacity, endurance capacity, while raising $1.1 million from scratch, while planning the food, the nutrition, the gear for a never-before attempted expedition. So getting to the starting line in many ways was harder than the expedition. And I truly believed, I wanted it with all my soul, even though I was told by many adventurers it's an impossible expedition. But, you don't go out there thinking you can't do it. No. But it was just so brutally hard. So I have a desire to go back, but the desire to go back is potentially to start from the coast and end at the South Pole, which would still be 60 to 70 days alone, but my sled would be about 100 and 150 pounds lighter at the start. So it's still hard enough to be a challenging expedition, but not an impossible one. And not to mention it wouldn't cost $1.1 million.
No. Well, look, we could talk for hours on this because I got so many other questions. And where can people find out? You said your website. Where is that?
Fearvana.com.
Fearvana.com. Okay. Yeah. So, and what are you doing now?
So now I do a lot of public speaking, sharing the lessons from the journey. I've started working with some clients one-on-one to help them up level. We're launching digital programs, working on 2 new books, building out the resources, the brand Fearvana, to ultimately help people navigate suffering to create a life of greater meaning, bliss, and fulfillment.
And if you had it your way, what would have to happen with Fearvana to light you up that it happened?
With the next book, the goal is to get on Rogan. And we really want to take that brand just to that tipping point of the next level, just be a household name I mean, again, the fundamental ethos is to release all unnecessary suffering, guiding people to embrace struggle, to use it as, like I define Fearvana as the bliss that results from engaging our fears to pursue our own worthy struggle, pursue our path. So that's what we want to do, is help people find, live, and love their worthy struggle. And the more people I can help on that path, if I can help 8 billion in the world, awesome. If I can help 1, 2, 3, getting to the point that it helps as many people find, live, and love their path.
Amazing. Akshay, I want to thank you so much for the vulnerability, for coming out here. Well, you live out here, but still coming over here to the studio, sharing with us here on That One Podcast. I really appreciate you, man.
Thank you, brother.
And thank you so much for your service as well.
Thank you, man.
Yep. All right, guys, that's this episode with Akshay Nanavati. Go get the book, Fearvana. Check it out, fearvana.com, and also on Amazon probably as well. But check out the website. Keep coming back. It's your boy C-Rock here, signing off for now. That One Podcast here in Phoenix, Arizona. Until next time. Oh, by the way, I don't know what platform you're on right now, but there's a subscribe or follow button at the top. Make sure you hit that so you can keep hearing from our amazing guests on That One Podcast. Until next time, be that one.